Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Loki, I'm humbled that you traveled these miles and delivered those powerful words. I so wish he was on the benches in the House of Commons beside me. Can you imagine that? He rules it out for now, but he should seriously consider it. He would hit them like an atom bomb, I'll tell you, like an atom bomb. And my God, they deserve it. As he talked about the dangers to life, I looked around this ballroom and I remembered that Brother Malcolm died on a stage in a ballroom just like this one. So if it's coming, let me say this, without equivocation, without qualification, I'd be proud to die alongside you. I'd be proud to die for the people of Palestine, for the people of Gaza. I'd be proud to. Because, as Malcolm X said, we stand for justice, no matter who for, no matter who against. We believe in haq. It's our word. It means much. That's what we stand for. As it happens, due to a constellation, some of them unexpected, a constellation of events, we stand on the verge of an historic victory here in Rochdale on the 29th, which will resound across the world. It will unset. I saw a headline in the Daily Express this evening. Is that still coming out? I asked myself. It said, fear rises at the prospect of George Galloway's return to Parliament. Fear. It's such an opportunity for us to strike fear into the hearts, the blackest hearts in Britain, who sit on those benches in the House of Commons, cheering on every Israeli crime, voting down every ceasefire motion, voting on every export of arms, every veto in the United Nations, doing everything that they can to prolong the agony of the people in Gaza. The idea that we here in Rochdale can strike fear in their black hearts is something that we must not let slip as an opportunity on the 29th. Loki, in part, has a background in Iraq. I met at the Rumi revival last night in Manchester, courtesy of my good brother and friend Bilal. My wife and I were there. Very enthusiastic crowd. I wish they'd all been voters in Rochdale. But a man came up the stairs right as I was emerging onto the stairs. He said, I last saw you when I was 5 years old on the streets of Baghdad with your red London bus. Now he's a grown man with a wife and children living in Manchester. And I told him, as I tell Karim, when I hear the word Iraq, I turn as if somebody called my name. Iraq entered my bloodstream. I'm here because of Iraq. I was a Labour MP and would have continued for as long as I'd wanted as a Labour MP, but Tony Blair out of the Labour Party over Iraq. I could do no other but stand with Iraq. I knew they were lying in London and Washington. Saddam Hussein himself told me, I said to him, I shouldn't say this when there's cameras running by, I said to him, you have to destroy anything that you have, or these people are going to launch a devastating war against you. Go on, John. I said, you can rebuild your strength later, but we have to avoid this. He said to me these words, Comrade George, we would not lie to you. We do not have weapons of mass destruction. And he was telling the truth, and Tony Blair and George W. Bush were the liars. Imagine. The one they called the dictator was telling the truth, and the leaders of the free world were the liars. And they lied us into a war that caused 1 million deaths and counting. They broke Iraq. They broke its strength, its unity, its power. They broke it into pieces. They bled it so they could exploit it. But guess what? Iraq is back. The Iraqi people are back. And they're kicking the United States out of their country. And that will never change. And one day inshallah, the Palestinian people will do the same. They will recover. They will reunite. They will rebuild their strength. And Palestine will be a shining beacon in the Holy Land that your children will be able to say, my mother, my father fought for that victory, and that victory is coming. Of course, I'm not only standing on Gaza, for Palestine. Of course not. I've got dust on my boots from the building site in the Exchange shopping centre in town, where, subhanAllah, we're going to reopen the open air market in Rochdale in the next few weeks. Of course, I'm not only standing for Gaza, I'm standing for the return of maternity services here in Rochdale. Imagine, nobody can be born in Rochdale. Imagine, how can it be a town if no one can be born in it? Unless in a taxi on the way to Oldham. You can't even die here, low-key. There's no A&E. There's no maternity services. There's hardly any services at all in the Rochdale Infirmary. It's a shame on the politicians who presided over that. Can you imagine if I'd been the MP and they proposed to take away the maternity and A&E services, that had to drag me out on a bulldozer in front of that infirmary? And thousands of you would have been with me if that had been the case. No wonder it's fear that they are experiencing here. I got a thrill when I read that Daily Express headline. Can you imagine their faces as I walk through those swing doors and say, as I was saying, Mr. Speaker, as I was saying about these criminals on both sides of the aisle, because that's what they are, criminals. They're war criminals, they're criminals against the British people, they're criminals against our own interests, and they are in league with the worst gangrenous pirates in the world. And if I don't win, well, I will have tried. A vote for Labour is a vote for genocide. That's the truth of the matter. That's the truth of the matter. Two sides, two cheeks of the same arse. And we know what comes out of it. And we're tired of it. We're never going to accept it again. I spoke to a young woman, if she'll forgive me, Aroma. What a beautiful name, Aroma from Bury. She told me that her MP, a Labour MP, is one of the leading figures for Israel. Goes on the TV speaking for Israel. Her majority is 5%, maybe less. A few hundred votes is her majority. And the Muslims, mashallah, 10% of the time. We're going to put a candidate up in Bury, and our purpose will be to break the Labour stranglehold on Bury and remove a war criminal from our parliament, our midst. Others, the young woman, she moves me so much. I wish she was already the candidate against Angela Runner in Tameside, in Manchester. We'll stand as independents. I've had deputations from Oldham, from Bolton, from Manchester. If we win here on the 29th, we'll set a fire running through many hundreds of constituencies here in Britain. They'll all want to be like Rochdale. If Rochdale can do it, then Bethnal Green can do it, then Newham can do it, Bolton can do it, Oldham can do it, Bury can do it. If we can do it here, we can do it anywhere, everywhere, and that is what we intend to do. The situation in Gaza, when Loki and I arrived there, in the wake of previous iterations of this genocide that's been going on for 76 years. Not 130 days, 76 years. When we arrived there were still bodies under the rubble. Destruction was everywhere. The entire Gaza Strip came out to receive our convoy in the darkness. But we have never seen anything quite like this. I was in Beirut in 1982, living in the Palestinian camps of Sabra and Shatila. Before the massacres there, 3,582 Palestinian refugees were massacred. Their men had agreed as part of a deal to leave on the boats, leaving their women and children behind, their old people behind. And the fascists fell upon them like wolves and devoured them in their thousands. And we thought that such a massacre was unprecedented, would never be permitted again. But what we are seeing in Gaza now, because we've got phones and social media, we're seeing it. If not for those devices, it would be like previous massacres. But we are watching it, and even our children have got phones. And our children are watching. Other children like them, as that beautiful young woman from Manchester in that beautiful poem earlier, before you arrived, Loki, talks about that child, that girl, turns out to be the niece of the Palestinian ambassador in London, Zalmot, a girl with no legs, hanging on a hook, dead. A girl, a child, Hind, in the taxi, lived her whole life under a siege, and until her last breath, she suffered at the hands of these monsters who go on to make of videos, dancing, disco dancing on the graves of children like Hind, children like Sidra, the girl hanging on that hook. It's not hard to make up your mind which side you're on, is it? Really? No. There's no middle ground in this. There's no fence to sit on. It's not complicated. You're on the side of the murderer or you're on the side of the murdered. You're on the side of the aggressor or you're on the side of their victim. As Malcolm X said, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. How can it be that every single news report, everyone without fail, on TV, radio and television and newspaper, on the Rochdale by-election begins with a ritual attack on me for making Gaza a centerpiece of our campaign? How can that be? It can only be because for them, these children are not human children. The blood of these children is not worth the same as the blood of other children. That's the only explanation. And I asked myself a question last night. I put it out and I changed my mind before I reached the end of the tweet. I said, would these journalists, if this election was taking place in 1939, would these journalists have attacked me for prioritizing the Holocaust of Jews and others that was already underway? Would they have attacked me for talking about the Holocaust in a by-election in 1939? But you know what? By the time I got to the end of the tweet, I realized that yes, they would. They would attack me. They don't care about the killing of the other. They don't care about the killing of people that look like you. They don't care about it. They really don't care about it. And we have this toxic bubble of journalists and politicians who don't care. And we have millions of us in the country and in every country who care so much that some of you are crying right now in this event, and others' hearts are aching. Millions of us, hundreds of them, they've got all the power. We currently have none until we burst their bubble on the 29th of February. Inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum.